Captain Hyenwoo Park stared at the endless black space outside his command deck window. The asteroid belt stretched far beyond what his eyes could see. Chunks of rock and metal drifted slowly past the monitoring station. Some were as small as pebbles, others were larger than city blocks. Sentinel-7 was the most distant human outpost in the solar system. It had been his home for 3 years now. The station was built inside a massive asteroid that engineers had hollowed out decades ago. Its metal corridors were cold and narrow. The air recycling systems hummed constantly in the background. Hyenwoo had volunteered for this assignment. Most officers avoided deep space monitoring duty. It was lonely work. Days could pass without any interesting signals to analyze, but he enjoyed the quiet. It gave him time to think about the bigger questions in life. The morning shift had just begun when Communications Officer Ji-Hai Kim called out from her station. Her voice carried an unusual tone of excitement. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," Ji-Hai said. She adjusted her headset and leaned closer to her equipment. "This signal is not from any human source." Hyenwoo walked over to her station. The communications array was the most advanced piece of technology on Sentinel-7. It could detect radio waves from thousands of light years away. Most of the time it only picked up background radiation from distant stars. "What kind of signal?" Hyenwoo asked. He placed his hand on the back of Ji-Hai's chair and looked at her screen. Ji-Hai frowned as she worked with the controls. "It appears to be a distress call, sir, but the language is completely unknown. The transmission is very weak. I think it is coming from outside our solar system." The captain felt his heart rate increase. Humanity had been searching for signs of alien life for over a century. They had found microbes on Mars and some interesting chemicals on the moons of Jupiter, but they had never detected intelligent alien communication. "Can you clean up the signal?" Hyenwoo asked. "I am trying, sir. The message seems to be repeating every few minutes." Ji-Hai worked quickly with her equipment. She adjusted frequencies and boosted the signal strength. Slowly, the static began to clear. What they heard next changed everything. The voice that came through the speakers was clearly not human. It had a musical quality, like someone singing rather than speaking. But there was something else in the voice, something that made both officers feel uncomfortable. Fear. The alien voice was filled with pure terror. Ji-Hai recorded the transmission and began running it through the computer systems. The translation programs had no reference for this language, but there were other ways to understand meaning. The tone of voice, the rhythm of speech, the way the message was structured. Sir Ji-Hai said quietly, "I think they are asking for help." Over the next several hours, more pieces of the message became clear. The computer systems identified mathematical concepts that were universal: numbers, star positions, basic physics equations. Using these reference points, they began to understand small parts of the alien language. The beings calling themselves Velothi had sent this message to dozens of star systems. They were looking for any species that might be able to help them. Their world was under attack. Their people were dying. They had heard rumors about a warrior species called humans somewhere in this part of the galaxy. "Captain," Ji-Hai said, "I think I have translated their location. They are approximately 47 light-years from Earth, in the direction of the constellation we call Cygnus." Hyenwoo stared at the data on her screen. 47 light-years was not impossible to reach with human faster-than-light technology, but it would be the longest journey any human ship had ever attempted. The next part of the alien message was even more disturbing. The Velothi described their attackers as the Corvani Dominion. These Corvani were a military empire that conquered other worlds. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They simply took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. According to the Velothi message, the Corvani had already destroyed 3 of their cities. Millions of innocent beings were dead. The survivors were hiding in underground shelters, but those would not protect them for much longer. "There is more, sir," Ji-Hai said. Her voice was very quiet now. "They are offering us their complete technology database, if we help them, everything they know about science, medicine, and engineering." But it was the final part of the message that made both officers sit in stunned silence. The transmission included a recording from inside one of the Velothi shelters. They could hear what sounded like children crying in the background. Adult voices were trying to comfort them. Someone was singing what could only be described as a lullaby. The melody was completely alien. The words made no sense to human ears. But the emotion behind the song was universal. It was the sound of parents trying to comfort their children during the worst moments of their lives. Hyenwoo had heard similar sounds before. During his military training, he had studied recordings from human conflicts throughout history. The same tone of desperate love could be found in recordings from every major war Earth had ever experienced. "Send this to Earth immediately," ordered. "Full priority transmission to Fleet Command." "Yes, sir. What should I tell them?" Hyenwoo was quiet for a long moment. He looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, 47 light-years away, children were crying in underground bunkers while their world burned above them. "Tell them we have received a cry for help. From beyond our solar system, tell them that innocent beings are dying while we debate what to do. And tell them that these aliens specifically asked for human help. Jihai began preparing the transmission. As she worked, she asked, "Sir, do you think Earth will respond?" Hyenwu thought about human history, about all the times his species had faced similar choices. Sometimes humans had turned away from suffering. But more often, especially when children were involved, humans had chosen to act. "I do not know," he said honestly, "but I hope they remember who we are supposed to be." The message was sent to Earth within the hour. It would take several days for a response to arrive, but Captain Hyenwu Park knew that this message would change everything. Humanity was about to learn that they were not alone in the universe. More importantly, they were about to discover that the universe needed them. The message from Sentinel-7 reached Earth Defense Command in Geneva at exactly 14:32 local time. Admiral Tajin Lee was reviewing fleet deployment reports when his aide rushed into his office. The young lieutenant looked pale and nervous. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," Lieutenant Dan Baichoi said. She handed him a datapad with shaking hands. Admiral Lee had commanded Earth's space forces for 12 years. He had seen terrorist attacks, natural disasters, and diplomatic crises. Very few things surprised him anymore. But as he read Captain Park's report, his coffee cup slowly slipped from his other hand and crashed to the floor. "Get President Yoon on the secure line," he said quietly, "and contact all members of the United Defense Council. Emergency session in 1 hour." Within minutes, the most secure conference room on Earth was filling with the planet's top military and political leaders. President Dong Han-yoon sat at the head of the long table. His face showed the weight of the decision that lay before them. Admiral Lee stood and activated the main display screen. The alien transmission played for the entire council. The musical voice of the Valethi filled the room. Even without understanding the words, everyone could hear the desperation. "How certain are we that this is genuine?" asked Defense Minister Yura Song. Dr. Sunmi Cho, Earth's leading expert on xenobiology, leaned forward. "I have analyzed the biological sounds in the background of their transmission. The breathing patterns, vocal structures, and emotional responses are consistent with a genuinely terrified species. This is not a hoax. But we know nothing about galactic politics," argued economic advisor Jinwoo Nam. "If we interfere, we might make ourselves targets of this Corvani Dominion." President Yoon nodded slowly. "That is exactly what concerns me. We have worked for 50 years to build our space fleet. Should we risk everything for aliens we have never met?" The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for caution. Others believed humanity had a moral duty to help. The room grew tense as voices were raised and tempers flared. Finally, Admiral Lee called for a break. During the recess, a young woman approached the conference table. Myung Seo was only 24 years old. She worked as a junior translator in the linguistics department. She had been analyzing the Valethi transmission for the past 6 hours. "Excuse me, sir," she said to President Yoon. "I know I should not interrupt, but I found something important in the alien message." The president looked tired but curious. "What did you find?" Miss Seo Myung activated her portable device. "There was a section of the transmission that our computers could not translate. I thought it might be technical data, but I was wrong. It is music." She played the recording. The haunting melody filled the quiet conference room. It was the sound they had heard before. The alien lullabies sung to frightened children. "I compared this to lullabies from different human cultures," Myung continued. "Korean, African, European, Native American, and dozens of others. The musical patterns are different, but the emotional structure is identical." She showed them her analysis on the screen. Charts and graphs demonstrated the similarities between human and alien parental songs. "What are you saying?" asked the president. Myung took a deep breath. "I am saying that these aliens love their children the same way we love ours. They sing to them when they are scared. They try to comfort them during terrible times, just like human parents have done for thousands of years." The room fell completely silent. Every person present was a parent or had been a child who remembered being comforted by loving adults. The alien lullaby suddenly sounded very familiar. Dr. Cho spoke first. "Miss Seo is correct. Love for offspring appears to be a universal behavior among intelligent species. These Valethi are singing to their young ones while their world burns around them." Admiral Lee stood up. "I have read every report about the Corvani Dominion that our computers could translate from the Valethi data. They are not just conquerors. They are exterminators. They do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. They kill entire populations and take their resources." "How many Valethi are there?" asked President Yoon. "According to their transmission, approximately 8 billion individuals," Dr. Cho replied. "Most of them are civilians, scientists, teachers, artists, farmers. They have no military force capable of defending against the Corvani." The president was quiet for a long time. He looked around the table at each council member. These were the people responsible for protecting Earth and its colonies. They had sworn oaths to defend innocent life wherever they found it. "If we do nothing, President Yoon said slowly, 8 billion innocent beings will die. Their children will never grow up, their songs will be silenced forever. Defense Minister Song leaned forward. But if we act, we reveal our location to a hostile empire. We put Earth itself at risk. Then we make sure we win. Admiral Lee said firmly. We do not fight half measures. If we go to war, we go to win completely. President Yoon called for a formal vote. Each council member stated their position clearly. The decision was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 17 votes for military intervention, 8 votes against. Admiral Lee, the president said. You have authorization to deploy the full Earth Defense Fleet. Your mission is to protect the Velothi from extinction and eliminate the Corvani threat in their system. The admiral nodded. What are our rules of engagement, sir? President Yoon thought about the alien children singing in underground bunkers. He thought about human history and all the times his species had chosen to fight. For those who could not fight for themselves, complete elimination of hostile forces, he said, no Corvani ship leaves that system alive. We send a message to the galaxy that Earth protects innocent life. Admiral Lee saluted. It will be done, sir. As the council members filed out of the room, Myung Seo remained behind. She was still listening to the alien lullaby through her headphones. What are you thinking about? President Yoon asked her. The young translator looked up with tears in her eyes. I am thinking that after today, those Velothi children will be safe. They will grow up to sing their own lullabies to their children someday. President Yoon nodded. That is exactly why we are doing this. Within hours, mobilization orders went out to every human military base in the solar system. Earth was going to war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velothi star system. 200 ships appeared in space, like ghosts materializing from darkness. Admiral Tajin Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dreadnought. Indomitable, through the main viewing window, he could see the distant yellow star that had been home to the Velothi for thousands of years. Long-range sensors are active, sir, reported Tactical Officer Kyung Ho Shin. I am detecting multiple ships throughout the system, both Velothi and unknown contacts. Captain Jae-Sung Kang, commander of the Indomitable, stepped beside the admiral. What are your orders, sir? Send Captain Nam forward for reconnaissance. Admiral Lee replied, I want to know exactly what we are facing before we reveal our full strength. The stealth ship Shadow detached from the main fleet and moved deeper into the system. Captain Seoko Nam had volunteered for this dangerous mission. His ship was built for hiding and gathering information. Its hull was covered with materials that absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. 2 hours later, Captain Nam's voice came through the communication system. His report made everyone on the bridge feel sick to their stomachs. Admiral, I am observing a systematic extermination campaign. The Corvani have deployed over 500 ships around the Velothi homeworld. They are bombarding cities from orbit. I count at least 40 major population centers that have been completely destroyed. Admiral Lee closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped they would arrive in time to prevent the worst of the slaughter. What about survivors? There are still Velothi ships trying to evacuate civilians. Sir, but the Corvani are hunting them down. I watched 3 refugee vessels get destroyed in the past hour. Men, women, and children aboard those ships. The bridge crew listened in grim silence. Commander Hae-Won Lim, leader of the destroyer squadron, spoke up. Sir, we need to act immediately. Every minute we wait, more innocents die. Agreed. Admiral Lee said. Captain Nam, can you identify the Corvani command ship? Yes, sir. It is a massive vessel, approximately 3 kilometers long, much larger than anything in our fleet. It is positioned in high orbit above the largest Velothi city. Admiral Lee studied the tactical display. The Corvani fleet was spread across the entire system. Their ships were huge, built for intimidation, and overwhelming firepower, but they were also slow and predictable in their movements. All ships, this is Admiral Lee. We are about to engage a numerically superior enemy force. But remember why we are here. Every Corvani ship we destroy saves innocent lives. Every moment we delay costs Velothi families their future. The human fleet began moving toward the inner system. The Corvani were so focused on their slaughter that they did not notice the approaching ships. Until it was too late. Captain Nam's Shadow reached the battlefield first. He watched as Corvani fighters strafed fleeing Velothi civilian transports. The alien refugees had no weapons, no shields, no way to defend themselves. They could only run and hope to reach the outer system. Before being caught, this is Shadow to all ships. Captain Nam transmitted. I am engaging enemy fighters attacking civilian vessels. These monsters are killing children. The first Corvani to die never knew what hit them. Captain Nam's ship appeared from nowhere and launched a spread of nuclear torpedoes. 6 enemy fighters simply vanished in balls of superheated plasma. The surprise attack sent shockwaves through the Corvani formation. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced an enemy that could appear and disappear like ghosts. Within minutes, the main human fleet arrived in the combat zone. The Corvani finally realized they were no longer the hunters. They had become the prey. War Commander Victor commanded the Corvani forces from his flagship, the Bone Crusher. He was a veteran of 50 campaigns against inferior species. When his sensors detected the human ships, he laughed with contempt. Pathetic mammals, he growled to his bridge crew. 200 tiny ships against our mighty fleet. We will crush them and add their homeworld to our collection. Victor opened a communication channel to the human fleet. His reptilian face appeared. On screens throughout the human armada, his scales were dark green with scars from old battles. His eyes were cold and showed no emotion except cruelty. Primitive species, Victor said in broken but understandable human language. You have made a terrible mistake coming here. Withdraw now, and we may allow your world to serve us as slaves. Refuse, and we will hunt you to extinction. Admiral Lee stepped forward on his bridge. Lieutenant Thugino activated the recording systems to capture this historic moment. I am Admiral Tajian Lee of the Earth Defense Force, he replied calmly. You are conducting genocide against innocent civilians. Cease your attacks immediately and withdraw from this system. Victor's laughter filled the communication channel. You dare make demands of the Corvani Dominion. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have exterminated entire species that annoyed us. What makes you think your pathetic fleet can challenge us? Because, Admiral Lee said quietly, you made the mistake of threatening children. The communication ended. War Commander Victor immediately ordered his ships to attack the human fleet. 500 Corvani vessels turned toward the 200 human ships. The aliens expected an easy victory. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Captain Kong on the Indomitable fired the first shot. His ship's main railgun accelerated a tungsten projectile to 15% of light speed. The kinetic energy was equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The projectile punched through the shields of a Corvani cruiser like they were made of paper. It tore completely through the enemy ship and came out the other side. The alien vessel broke apart and exploded in a cascade of secondary direct hit, reported Tactical Officer Shin. Enemy vessel destroyed. The battle had begun. But as the human weapons opened fire across the fleet, it quickly became clear that this would not be a fair fight. The Corvani had brought overwhelming numbers to a massacre. The humans had brought overwhelming skill to a war. The space battle that followed became known as the Velothi Liberation, but to the Corvani forces, it was nothing less than a nightmare made real. Captain Jae-Sung Kong's dreadnought Indomitable carved through the enemy formation like a sword through cloth. The human ship was only half the size of the largest Corvani vessels, but its weapons were devastatingly effective. Every shot from its railguns destroyed or crippled an enemy ship. Enemy cruiser, approaching from starboard, called out, Weapons Officer, Seungmin Park. Range 2,000 kilometers and closing. Fire, when ready. Captain Kong replied calmly. The Indomitable's secondary batteries opened fire. Nuclear torpedoes streaked across space and slammed into the Corvani cruiser's hull. The alien ship's shields collapsed under the assault. Its armor, plating melted away like ice in a furnace. Within seconds, the massive vessel was nothing but expanding debris. Meanwhile, Commander Haewon, Lim's destroyer squadron, was demonstrating a completely different type of warfare. Her ships were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. They appeared from empty space, fired their weapons, and vanished again before the enemy could respond. Ghost Leader to all Ghost units. Commander Lim transmitted. Enemy troop, transport at coordinates 77 Alpha. They are carrying soldiers to the surface for ground operations. Her destroyers materialized around the Corvani transport like predators surrounding prey. The alien ship was huge and heavily armored, but it was also slow and defenseless. The human destroyers fired simultaneously. Their combined firepower overwhelmed the transport's defenses in seconds. The explosion lit up space for thousands of kilometers. 10,000 Corvani soldiers died before they could set foot on the Velothi homeworld. But not all human ships were focused on destroying the enemy. Captain Boram Choi commanded a squadron of fast attack ships that had a different mission. While the main fleet engaged the Corvani warships, her vessels were rescuing Velothi civilians. This is Rescue Leader to Velothi Transport Delta 4. Captain Choi transmitted. We are here to escort you to safety. Follow our lead and stay close. The Velothi ship was damaged in leaking atmosphere. Inside were 300 refugees, mostly women and children fleeing the destruction of their cities. Corvani fighters were closing in for the kill when Captain Choi's squadron arrived. All units, protect the civilian transport, she ordered. Weapons free. Show these murderers what happens when they target innocents. The human fighters engaged the Corvani attackers with cold fury. These aliens had been hunting defenseless refugees like animals. Now they faced opponents who could fight back. The battle was over in minutes. Every Corvani fighter was destroyed. Not one human ship was lost. Velothi transport, you are safe now, Captain Choi transmitted. We will escort you to the outer system where more rescue ships are waiting. The Valathi captain's response came through the communication system. His voice was filled with wonder and gratitude. "Thank you, humans. Our children will remember this day forever." Back in the main battle, War Commander Victor was beginning to understand the terrible mistake he had made. His fleet outnumbered the humans by more than 2 to 1, but the battle was turning into a massacre, and the humans were not the ones dying. "Status report." He growled at his tactical officer. "We have lost over 100 ships, sir. The humans have lost only 12. Their weapons are far more advanced than our intelligence indicated." Victor watched on his displays as another group of his vessels exploded under human fire. These mammals fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They showed no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ships. They want permission to withdraw from the battle." "Denied," Victor snarled. "Any ship that attempts to flee will be destroyed by our own forces. We are Corvani, we do not retreat." But even as he spoke those words, Victor knew the battle was lost. The question now was whether any of his ships would survive to report back to the Dominion. His answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Wu Jinru's experimental ship Retribution had been holding back from the main battle. Now it moved forward to demonstrate humanity's most terrifying weapon. "This is Retribution to Fleet Command," Captain Wu transmitted, requesting permission to activate the gravitic disruptor. Admiral Lee's voice came back immediately. "Permission granted. Target the enemy flagship." The Retribution was smaller than most ships in the human fleet, but it carried technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The gravitic disruptor could manipulate gravity itself, creating fields of force that could tear apart matter. At the molecular level, Captain Wu targeted War Commander Victor's flagship, the Bone Crusher. The massive Corvani vessel was 3 kilometers of hardened armor and devastating weapons. It had survived dozens of battles against inferior species. "Gravitic disruptor charging," reported Chief Engineer Min Hoan. "Field generators at maximum power, ready to fire." "Fire," Captain Wu ordered. What happened next defied everything the Corvani thought they knew about warfare. The Bone Crusher simply began to come apart. Its hull plating peeled away like layers of an onion. Its internal structure twisted and collapsed. The massive ship folded in on itself until it became a sphere of compressed metal and debris. War Commander Victor had just enough time to scream before his flagship imploded completely. The destruction of their command ship broke the Corvani fleet's will to fight. Ships began breaking formation and attempting to flee, but the human forces were ready for them. "This is Admiral Lee, to all ships," came the transmission. "No enemy vessel leaves this system. Hunt them down." Dr. Yang Su-Kwan, the fleet's tactical analyst, watched the battle from the command ship's observation deck. He had studied military history his entire career, but he had never seen anything like this. Human ships pursued fleeing Corvani vessels. Across 3 star systems, they showed no mercy, no hesitation, no willingness to accept surrender. The aliens who had come to commit genocide were learning what it felt like to be hunted to extinction. "Sir," Dr. Kwan said to Admiral Lee, "our tactical doctrine is unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Most species fight for territory or resources. We fight for principles." Admiral Lee nodded grimly. "And when we fight for principles, we do not stop until the threat is completely eliminated." The battle continued for 6 more hours. When it ended, not a single Corvani ship remained operational in the Valathi system. The final phase of the battle took place at the Corvani forward base in the outer system. Admiral Taejin Lee had learned from captured enemy data that this station coordinated attacks on dozens of innocent worlds. It was not enough to save the Valathi. The source of this evil had to be destroyed completely. The base was enormous, built inside a hollowed asteroid similar to human deep space stations. But where human outposts were designed for research and defense, this Corvani facility existed only to plan and supply genocide campaigns. "Long-range sensors show heavy fortifications," reported Captain Eugen Beek from her assault ship Vengeance. "Multiple defense platforms, fighter squadrons, and at least 50 warships defending the base." Admiral Lee studied the tactical display on his flagship. The enemy had chosen their position well. The asteroid field provided cover for their ships, while the base itself bristled with weapons designed to destroy attacking fleets. "Sir," said Commander Jin Ho-sung, "we are receiving a transmission from the base. They want to negotiate." "Put it through," Admiral Lee replied. The alien face that appeared on the main screen was different from War Commander Victor. This Corvani was older, with elaborate markings that indicated high rank. His name was Base Commander Thurok, and his voice carried the arrogance of someone who had never faced defeat. "Human Admiral Thurok said, you have won an impressive victory today, but this base contains the military records of our entire sector. Surely we can reach an arrangement that benefits both our species." Admiral Lee's expression remained completely calm. "What kind of arrangement?" "We will withdraw from Valathi space permanently. In exchange, you allow us to evacuate this base with our essential personnel and data." We both avoid unnecessary casualties. Several human officers on the bridge looked toward their admiral. The offer seemed reasonable. They had already saved the Velothi and destroyed the invasion fleet. Why continue the bloodshed? Admiral Lee was quiet for a long moment. Then he activated his personal communication device and connected to Captain Bayorm Choi, who was still coordinating refugee rescues near the Velothi homeworld. Captain Choi, what is the current status of civilian evacuations? Her voice came through the speakers for everyone to hear. Sir, we have rescued approximately 50,000 Velothi from the surface, but our scans indicate at least 2 million more are trapped in underground shelters. Many are wounded children who need immediate medical attention. Admiral Lee looked back at the alien commander on his screen. Base Commander Thurok, how many innocent beings has your organization killed in the past year? Thurok's expression showed confusion. I do not understand the relevance of that question. Answer it, Admiral Lee said coldly. Our forces have successfully pacified 17 worlds in this sector. Each contained populations of various sizes, perhaps 30 or 40 billion total individuals. The bridge of the human flagship fell completely silent. 40 billion innocent lives. Men, women, and children who had been murdered simply because they existed in the path of Corvani expansion. Captain Beak, Admiral Lee said quietly, begin the assault. No survivors. The final battle was not really a battle at all. It was an execution. Captain Beak's assault ships moved through the asteroid field like hunters stalking prey. The Corvani defenders fought desperately, but they were facing an enemy that no longer saw them as fellow living beings. They had become problems to be solved. The human ships worked together with mechanical precision. Destroyers eliminated the defense platforms while fighters cleared out enemy squadrons. The main assault ships focused on the base itself. Commander Song led a boarding party that captured the base's command center. The Corvani inside surrendered immediately, expecting to be taken prisoner according to normal military practice. They had forgotten that humans did not consider genocide to be normal military practice. Sir, one of the captured aliens said to Commander Song, we surrender. We claim protection under Galactic warfare conventions. Commander Song looked at the alien with eyes that showed no emotion. What conventions did you follow when you murdered 40 billion innocent beings? The interrogation that followed revealed the full scope of Corvani operations. They had detailed records of every world they had attacked, every population they had exterminated, every species they had driven to extinction. The data filled thousands of computer storage devices, but Commander Song was looking for something specific. Where are the other Corvani fleets? He demanded. How many more operations like this are currently happening? The base commander finally broke under questioning. Sector Command is located in the Rigel system. There are 12 more invasion fleets currently active across this region of the galaxy, but they will not interfere if you allow us to leave peacefully. Commander Song transmitted this information back to Admiral Lee. The response came immediately. Negative. These aliens have forfeited any right to mercy. Complete the mission. The destruction of the Corvani base took 3 hours. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of military equipment was systematically destroyed. The aliens who had planned and coordinated genocide across dozens of worlds would never harm anyone again. But Admiral Lee was not finished. He had one more message to send. Communications, open a channel to all Corvani forces in this sector of the galaxy. Channel, open sir. Admiral Lee's voice was broadcast across dozens of star systems where Corvani fleets were conducting their campaigns of extermination. This is Admiral Tajin Lee of the Earth Defense Force. Your forward base has been destroyed. Your invasion fleet has been eliminated. Every Corvani in this system is dead. We have your military records. We know where your other fleets are located. We know which worlds you are currently attacking. He paused to let his words sink in across the vastness of space. Here is our message to the Corvani Dominion. Earth has entered galactic affairs. We seek peace with all species that respect innocent life. But any organization that commits genocide will face our complete and total wrath. Tell your leaders what happened here today. Tell them that humans remember. Tell them that we will find them. The transmission ended, but its effects would ripple across the galaxy for years to come. 3 days later, Ambassador Soyoung Park arrived with a diplomatic fleet to establish formal relations with the Velothi government. Her brother, Captain Hyenwoo Park, accompanied her from Sentinel-7 to serve as a translator. The first meeting took place in the ruins of the Velothi capital city. Millions of buildings had been destroyed, but the survivors were already beginning to rebuild. Velothi Elder Siran approached the human delegation with tears in her large, gentle eyes. How can we ever repay what you have done for us? Ambassador Park smiled gently. You do not need to repay anything. We did what any decent species should do when they see innocent beings threatened. But why? Elder Siren asked. You risked your entire civilization to save strangers. This is not how most species behave in the galaxy. Ambassador Park looked around at the Velothi children playing in the rubble of their destroyed homes. They were laughing and singing, already beginning to heal from their terrible experience. Because, she said simply, this is what humanity is. We are capable of great kindness and terrible wrath. Which one you experience depends entirely on your choices. The Velothi would never forget the day humans arrived to save their world. And across the galaxy, the surviving Corvani fleets received new orders from their high command. Stay away from Earth, stay far away.